Welcome back to the Bible in 90 Days. We're on day 47. I keep looking at the board to make sure I'm saying the right day. Sometimes these days just blur together. I'm just kidding. No, I'm very much paying attention to what day it is. It's something that's on the forefront of my mind. Something else that I've been thinking about, especially concerning this, is do you ever, but not necessarily concerning this, talking about the B90, do you ever get down on a project? And I ask that rhetorically. I feel like the answer is yes. I feel like everyone gets down at times in what they're doing, and I've noticed that I've been putting these videos out later, and sometimes sometimes I don't put the video. I don't even, but at the last minute I'll slap one together. I'll be like, I just don't want to do it, and then I'll slap one together, but it's never slapping one together because I always have to do the same work. It's just amazing how when I buckle down and do it, the motivation comes, and I haven't halfway done one of these things. I feel accomplished for doing these, and this is a lot of fun. It really is. But when you do it over and over and over and over, this is becoming a routine, So, and 90 days it creates a habit is something I've heard from a good friend of mine. But we're dedicated. We're dedicated to this thing, and I know that there's been some hard times, and a lot of you can't watch, and a lot of people don't have time to watch this all the way through. But I want to encourage you. I want you to keep going. I mean, because this is where this is actually where it gets tough, and you need to be encouraged to get through it. The wisdom literature is really good, but it's very hard to read, and it's very hard to sustain reading. But we're going to finish Proverbs today, and we're going to get into the book of Ecclesiastes. And man, if you haven't read Ecclesiastes, it's really kind of sad, but in a way that kind of for me, Ecclesiastes opens your eyes to the truth of vain philosophy and things like that. It really goes a long way. It's something that we should be studying in our time today for sure. Ecclesiastes is a very wonderful book. But today we've got about 8 chapters, 7 or 8 chapters left in Proverbs, and we're in the middle of these sayings. David had these 30 sayings. That's right. There are 30 sayings that I think, and what I was thinking earlier was about memorizing this. This would be a great thing to memorize, like to have this is the code. This is a code you'd live by if you were one of Solomon's sons. But let's put them to the test. Let's finish reading them. Remember, we were halfway through, or we were up to saying 6. It kind of, I hate that it splits up things like that. But the chapters and verses were not in the original manuscripts. This is something that we've added later to organize this. It was actually added at different times. It was added. They were added to organize, and sometimes chapters. Most of the time, chapters just run through the story or whatever you're reading. Just reads right through the chapter. So, like in a normal book that you read, one chapter is like a whole idea, and in the Bible it's not so, because it wasn't actually written that way. Those numbers do help us organize. To know where we are in the Bible, but they're not like, and neither are the titles or any of these extra things in the Bible. I just thought that I would share some of that knowledge with you. It might be stuff you already know or not. Well, let's jump into the Word. We're in Psalm 20 or Proverbs 23. this is saying 7 out of 30. When you sit to dine with a ruler, note well what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are given to gluttony. Do not crave his delicacies, for that food is deceptive. Saying 8. Do not wear yourself, verse 4, do not wear yourself out to get rich. Boy, I can tell you that. I wish I had somebody teach me that when I was younger. Do not trust your own cleverness. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone. For they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. Saying 9, verse 6. Do not eat the food of a begrudging host. Do not crave his delicacies, for he is the kind of person who is always thinking about the cost. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. You will vomit up the little you have eaten, and will have wasted your compliments. Saying 10, verse 9. Do not speak to fools, for they will scorn your prudent words. Saying 11. Do not move an ancient boundary stone, or encroach on the fields of the fatherless. For their defender is strong, and he will take up their case against you. Saying 12. Apply your heart to instruction, and your ears to words of knowledge. Saying 13. I think if you're hanging out with me, you don't have to worry about that one. If you're reading all of this Bible with me, you are applying yourself to instruction and your ears to words of knowledge. Be encouraged. Saying 13. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you punish them with a rod, they will not die. Punish them with a rod and save them from death. Saying 14, verse 15. My son, if your heart is wise, then my heart will be glad indeed. My innermost being will rejoice when your lips speak what is right. I'm always happy about my children doing what's right. My children are wild, but they have good hearts, and that brings me real joy. So I can feel that one. Saying 15. Do not let your heart envy sinners, but always be zealous for the fear of the Lord. There is surely a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. Saying 16, verse 19. Listen, my son, and be wise, and set your heart on the right path. Do not join those who drink too much wine, or gorge themselves on meat, for drunkards and gluttons become poor, and drowsiness clothes them in rags. Saying 17, verse 22. Listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy the truth and do not sell it, wisdom, instruction, and insight as well. The father of a righteous child has great joy. A man who fathers a wise son rejoices in him. May your father and your mother rejoice. May she who gave birth to you be joyful. Amen. Saying 18 is verse 26. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes delight in my ways. For an adulterous woman is a deep pit, and a wayward wife is a narrow well. Like a bandit she lies in wait, and multiplies the unfaithful among men. Saying 19, verse 29. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaints? Who has needless bruises? Who has bloodshot eyes? Those who linger over wine, who go down to sample bowls of mixed wine. Do not gaze at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it goes down smoothly. In the end it bites like a snake, and poisons like a viper. Your eyes will see strange sights, and your mind will imagine confusing things. You will be like one sleeping on the high seas, lying on top of the rigging. They hit me, you'll say, but I'm not hurt. They beat me, but I don't feel it. When will I wake up? When will I wake up so I can have another drink? I think Solomon was not without humor. Saying 20. Chapter 24, saying 20. Do not envy the wicked. Do not desire their company, for their hearts plot violence, and their lips talk about making trouble. Saying 21, verse 3. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Saying 22. The wise prevail through great power, and those who have knowledge muster their strength. Surely you need guidance to wage war, and victory is won through many advisers. Saying 23. Wisdom is too high for fools. In the assembly at the gate they must not open their mouths. Saying 24. Verse 8. Whoever plots evil will be known as a schemer. The schemes of folly are sin, and people detest a mocker. Saying 25 is verse 10. If you falter in a time of trouble, how small is your strength? Rescue those who being led away to death. Hold back those staggering towards slaughter. If you say, "But we knew nothing about this," does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who guards your life know it? He will not repay everyone. Will he not repay everyone according to what they have done? Saying 26. Eat honey, my son. Verse 13. Eat honey, my son, for it is good. Honey from the comb is sweet to your taste. Know that also wisdom is like honey for you. If you find it, there is little hope for you. Or there is a future hope for you, and your hope will not be cut off. Saying 27, verse 15. Do not lurk like a thief near the house of the righteous. Do not plunder their dwelling place. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. Saying 28, verse 17. Do not gloat when your enemy falls. When they stumble, do not let your heart rejoice, or the Lord will see and disapprove and turn his wrath away from them. Saying 29, 19. Do not fret because of evildoers, or be envious of the wicked, for evildoer has no future hope, and the lamp of the wicked will be snuffed out. Saying 30. Fear the Lord and the King, my son, and do not join with the rebellious officials, for those who will send sudden destruction on them. For those too will send sudden destruction on them, and who knows what calamities they can bring. All right, we have further sayings of the wise, verse 23. These are also sayings of the wise. To show partiality in judging is not good. Whoever says to the guilty, "You are innocent," will be cursed by peoples and denounced by nations. But it will go well with those who convict the guilty, and rich blessing will come on them. Verse 26. An honest answer is like a kiss on the lips. Put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house. That's good advice right there. Do not testify against your neighbor without cause. Would you use your lips to mislead? Do not say, "I'll do to them as they have done to me. I'll pay them back for what they did." Verse 30. I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who has no sense. Thorns had come up everywhere, and the ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. I applied my heart to what I observed and learned a lesson from what I saw. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. Chapter 25, more Proverbs of Solomon. These are more Proverbs of Solomon, compiled by the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah. It is the glory of the Lord to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so the heart of kings are unsearchable. Remove the dross from silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel. Remove wicked officials from the king's presence, and the throne will be established through righteousness. Verse 6. Do not exalt yourself in the king's presence, and do not claim a place among his great men. It is better for him to say to you, Come up here, than for him to humiliate you before his nobles. Amen. What you have seen with your eyes do not bring hastily to court. For what will you do in the end if your neighbor puts you to shame? Verse 9. If you take your neighbor to court and do not betray another's confidence. If you take your neighbor to court, do not betray another's confidence, or the one that hears it may shame you, and the charge against you will stand. Like apples of gold in settings of silver is a ruling rightly given. Like an earring of gold or an ornament of fine gold is the rebuke of a wise judge to a listening ear. 13. Like a snow-cooled drink at harvest time is a trustworthy messenger to the one who sends him. He refreshes the spirit of his master. Like clouds and wind without rain, he is the one who boasts of gifts never given. Verse 15. Through patience a ruler can be persuaded. A gentle tongue can break a bone. That's a good one. 16. If you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it and you will vomit. He must have learned that one the hard way. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house. Too much of you and they will hate you. He must have learned that one the hard way too. Sorry. Verse 18. Like a club or a sword or a sharp arrow is the one who gives false testimony against a neighbor. Like a broken tooth or a lame foot is the reliance on the unfaithful in a time of trouble. Like one who takes away a garment on a cold day, or like vinegar poured on a wound, is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. Man. 21. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. Your enemy, feed them. Give them water. Like a north wind that brings unexpected rain is a sly tongue which rebukes a horrified look. Better to live in a corner of the roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome wife. We've heard that one before. That one's repeated. It's important. Right? Like cold water to a weary soul is good news from a distant land. Like a muddied spring or a polluted well are the righteous who give way to the wicked. Isn't that right? We see that in politics all the time. 27. It is not good to eat too much honey, for it is honorable to search out matters that are too deep. nor is it honorable, to search out matters that are too deep. So when things get too deep, man, don't go down the rabbit hole. It's a sidetrack. You end up, never mind. 28. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. Amen. Chapter 26. Like snow on a summer rain, or summer, or rain and harvest, honor is not fitting for a fool. Like a fluttering sparrow or a darting swallow, an undeserved curse does not come to rest. A whip before the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the backs of fools. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes. There's the Bible is contradicting itself. Well, there's an application there. These are just sayings. Verse 6. Sending a message by the hands of a fool is like cutting off one's feet or drinking poison. Verse 7. Like useless legs of one foot is like the useless legs of one who is lame is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Yeah. Never mind. I didn't say anything, but never mind. I was thinking all kinds of things. Verse 8. Like tying a stone in a sling is the giving of honor to a fool. Like a toothbrush in a drunkard's hand is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. Like an archer who wounds at random is one who hires a fool for any passerby. Verse 11. A dog returns to his vomit, so the fools repeat their folly. You see a person who is wise in their own eyes. There is more hope for a fool than for them. Boy, he is hard on the fools right here, isn't he? A sluggard says, "There's a lion on the road, a fierce lion roaming the streets." Verse 14. As a door turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns in his bed. A sluggard buries his hand in the dish. He is too lazy to bring it back to his mouth. 16. A sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 people who answer discreetly. Like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel not their own. Verse 18. That'd be a good one to use on Facebook. Like a maniac shooting arrows of death is one who deceives their neighbor and says, "I was only joking." You think that has happened? We have been doing that to each other for thousands of years. Without wood, a fire goes out. Without gossip, a quarrel dies down. That's good right there. As charcoal embers and as wood to a fire, so is a quarrelsome person for kindling strife. The words of gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to the innermost parts. Like a coating of silver dross on earthenware are fervent lips with an evil heart. Enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them, for 7 abominations fill their hearts. Their malice may be concealed by deception, but their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Verse 27. Whoever digs a pit will fall in it. If someone rolls a stone, it will roll back on them. Verse 28. A lying tongue hates those it hurts, and flattering mouth works ruin. Chapter 27. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Let someone else praise you, and not your own mouth, an outsider, and not your own lips. Verse 3. Stone is heavy, and sand a burden, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Anger is cruel and fury overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Wow. 5. Better is an open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Verse 7. One who is fully loathes honey from the comb, but to the hungry even what is bitter tastes sweet. Like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from home. Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and pleasantries of a friend springs from their heartful advice. Verse 10, do not forsake your friend or the friend of your family, and do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. Verse 11, be wise, my son, and bring joy to my heart. Well, then I can answer anyone who treats me with contempt. That's right there. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. 13. Take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger and hold it in pledge if it is done for an outsider. 14. If anyone loudly blesses their neighbor early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. Oh, wow. Verse 15. A quarrelsome wife is like the dripping of a leaky roof in a rainstorm. Restraining her is like restraining the wind or grasping oil with the hand. Verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Verse 18. The one who guards a fig tree will eat its fruit, and whoever protects their master will be honored. 19. As water reflects the face of one who, so one's life reflects the heart. 20. Death and destruction are never satisfied, and neither are human eyes. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. Though you grind a fool in a mortar, grinding them like grain will be with a pestle, you will not remove their folly from them. You must have learned that on purpose. Solomon. I don't know, I'm just joking. Sorry. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds, for riches do not endure forever. A crown is not secure for all generations. When the hay is removed and a new growth appears, the grass from the hills is gathered in. The lambs will provide you with clothing, and the goats with the price of a field. If you have plenty of goat's milk to feed your family, you will have plenty of goat's milk to feed your family and nourish your female servants. Chapter 28. The wicked flee though no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion. When a country is rebellious, it has many rulers, but a country with discernment and knowledge maintains order. A ruler who oppresses the poor is like driving rain that leaves no crops. Those who forsake the instruction praise the wicked, but those who heed it resist them. Verse 5. Evildoers do not understand what is right, but those who seek the Lord understand it fully. Verse 6. Better the poor whose walk is blameless than the rich who are perverse. Verse 7. A discerning son heeds instruction, but a companion of gluttons disgraces his father. 8. Whoever increases wealth by taking interest or profit from the poor, amasses it for another who will be kind to the poor. Verse 9. If anyone turns a deaf ear to my instruction, even their prayers are detestable. 10. Whoever leads the upright along an evil path will fall into their own trap, but the blameless will receive a good inheritance. Verse 11. The rich are wise in their own eyes. One who is poor and discerns sees how deluded they are. Amen. When the righteous triumph, there is great elation. But when the wicked rise to power, people go into hiding. Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Blessed is the one who always trembles before God, but whoever hardens their heart falls into trouble. 15. Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a helpless people. 16. A tyrannical ruler practices extortion, but one who hates ill-gotten gain will enjoy a long reign. Anyone tormented by the guilt of murder will seek refuge in the grave. Let no one hold them back. Verse 18. The one whose walk is blameless is kept safe, but the one whose ways are perverse will fall into the pit. 19. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies will have their fill of poverty. Oh, so that's why nobody wants to read their Bibles these days. Oh, I'm sorry. A faithful person will be richly blessed, but one eager to get rich will not go unpunished. 21. To show partiality is not good, yet a person will do wrong for a piece of bread. 22. The stingy are eager to get rich, and are unaware that poverty awaits them. Whoever rebukes a person will end. Whoever rebukes a person will in the end gain favor, rather than the one who has a flattering tongue. 24. Whoever robs their father or mother and says, it's not wrong, is partner to one who destroys. 25. The greedy stir up conflict, but those who trust in the Lord will prosper. 26. Those who trust in themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom are kept safe. 27. Those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to them receive many curses. When the wicked rise to power, people go into hiding, but when the wicked perish, the righteous thrive. Chapter 29. Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. 3. A man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. Number 4. By justice a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. Those who flatter their neighbors are spreading nets for their feet. 6. Evildoers are snared by their own sin, but the righteous shout for joy and are glad. 7. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. Mockers stir up a city, but the wise turn away anger. Verse 9. If a wise person goes to court with a fool, the fool rages and scoffs where there is no peace. And there is no peace. Verse 10. The bloodthirsty hate a person of integrity and seek to kill the upright. Verse 11. Fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. 12. If a ruler listens to lies and all his officials become wicked, the poor and the oppressor have this in common. Oh, I'm sorry, those were two different ones. Verse 12, if a ruler listens to lies, all his officials become wicked. 13, the poor man and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives sight to the eyes of them both. They both see. They both know what they're doing. Verse 14, if a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will be established forever. 15. A rod and a reprimand impart wisdom, but a child left undisciplined disgraces its mother. 16. When the wicked thrive, so does sin, but the righteous will see their downfall. 17. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace. They will bring you the delights you desire. 18. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint. But blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. 19. Servants cannot be corrected by mere words. Though they understand, they will not respond. 20. Do you see someone who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for them. 21. A servant pampered from youth will turn out to be insolent. 22. An angry person stirs up conflict, and a hot-tempered person commits many sins. 23. Pride brings a person low, but the lowly in spirit gain honor. 24. The accomplices of thieves are their own enemies, but they are put under oath and dare not testify. 25. The fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Many seek an audience with a ruler, but it is from the Lord that one gets justice. 27. The righteous detest the dishonest. The wicked detest the upright. They hate each other. Chapter 30. This is sayings of Agur. The sayings of Agur, son of Jakeh, an inspired utterance. This man's utterance to Ethiel. I am weary, God, but I can prevail. Surely I am only a brute, not a man. I do not have human understanding. I do not have learned wisdom, nor have I attained the knowledge of the Holy One, who has gone up to heaven and come down. Who Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is the name of his son? Surely you know. Verse 5. Every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, or he will rebuke you and prove you a liar. Verse 7. 2 things I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep the falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you, and say, Who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal, and so dishonor the name of my God. Verse 10. Do not slander a servant to their master, or they will curse you, and you will pay for it. There are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers, those who are pure in their own eyes and are not cleansed of their filth, those whose eyes are ever so haughty, whose glances are so disdainful, those whose teeth are swords, and whose jaws set with knives, to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mankind. The leech has 2 daughters. Give, give, they cry. Give, give, they cry. There are 3 things that they are never satisfied. That are never satisfied. 4 say 4 that never say enough. 16. The grave, the barren woman, land, which is never satisfied with water, and fire, which never says enough. Verse 17. The eye that mocks a father, that scorns an aged mother, will be pecked out by the ravens of the valley, and will be eaten by the vultures. Verse 18. There are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young woman. This is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done nothing wrong. 21. Under 3 things the earth trembles. Under 4 it cannot bear up. A servant who becomes king, a godless fool who gets plenty to eat, a contemptible woman who gets married, and a servant who displaces her mistress. 24. 4 things on earth are small, yet they are extremely wise. Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food in the summer. Hyraxes are creatures of little power, yet they make their home in the crags. Locusts have no king, yet they advance in their ranks. A lizard can be caught with the hand, yet it is found in kings' palaces. 29. There are 3 things that are stately in their stride, 4 things that move with stately bearing. A lion, mighty among beasts, who retreats before nothing. A strutting rooster, a he-goat, a king secure against revolt. If you play the fool, you will exalt yourself. If you play the fool and exalt yourself, or if you plan evil, clap your hand over your mouth. For a churning cream produces butter, and as a twisting the nose produces blood. So stirring up anger produces strife. Oh, that's good. Chapter 31. I got my one. I was off by 1. Whoopsie. Okay. Chapter 31. The sayings of King Lemuel. An inspired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, to the answer of my prayers. Answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprave all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty. Let them and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. The epilogue is the wife of a noble character. Verse 10. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night, and she provides for her family. And she portions for her female servants. 16. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. Verse 19. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. 25. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Alrighty, well, that's the end of Proverbs. That's really cool, that last one about the wife of noble character. Oh my goodness, my eyes aren't working right tonight. Now I'm better. Well, Ecclesiastes. I just kind of remember. I keep remembering, and then I keep forgetting that I haven't put up these Bible project videos. I will put one out. I'll catch up. I'll put a few of them out, and one for Ecclesiastes. Now, Ecclesiastes is, from what we can understand, is written by Solomon in the end of his life. Solomon did a lot of great things. We read Solomon's wisdom, and that's only a part of it. There's a lot more of Solomon that is not as trustworthy, but can be found. That we know for sure has been written by him. It's kind of iffy. You never know when you're dealing with ancient texts what's real and what's not. You can only really suppose. It's kind of like looking at the fossil record to find out whatever. It's just stuff they found in the dirt. It really is. But Ecclesiastes is, man, I'm just gonna have to summarize it after we do it, because it's just it's sad, but like I said earlier, it just opens you up to, it's sad, but only if you're thinking worldly. And you know what? It's difficult for us not to think worldly. It's difficult for us to have kingdom mindset. And this really kind of, if you don't know what kingdom mindset is, Solomon really shows you, especially when we get to chapter 12. So, and that'll be tomorrow. Yeah, we're starting Isaiah tomorrow. Golly. Isaiah's good. It's a long one, though. It's 66 chapters. All right. Well, let's jump into it. Ecclesiastes, chapter 1. Everything is meaningless. Verse 1. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Verse 3. What do people gain from all their labors which they toil under the sun? Generations come, generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south, it turns to the north. Round and round it goes, everything ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. The place of the streams come from to the place where the streams come from, where they there they return again. Verse 8. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. An eye never has enough seeing, nor an ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again, and what has been done will be done again, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, "Look, there is something new"? It was here already, long ago. It was not here before our time. Verse 11. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. Verse 12. I, the teacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. I applied my mind to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Verse 15. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. 16. So I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge, and then I applied myself the understanding of wisdom, and also madness and folly. But I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, and more knowledge, more grief. The more knowledge, the more grief. My words sounded better the other way, I thought. Pleasures are meaningless. Chapter 2. I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But what is also proved to be meaningless, laughter, I said, is madness. And is madness, and what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself, and treasure of kings and provinces. And the treasure of kings and provinces I acquired male and female singers, a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart, and I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all this my wisdom stayed with me. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Verse 12. Then I turned my thoughts to consider wisdom, also madness and folly. What more can the king's successor do than what has already been done? I saw that wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. The wise have eyes in their heads, while the fool walks in the darkness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes them both. Then I said to myself, the fate of the fool will overtake me also. That when What then do I gain by being wise? I said to myself, this too is meaningless. For the wise, like the fool, will not be long remembered. The days have already come when both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise must die. Verse 17. So I hated my life, because of the work that has been done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to one who comes after me, and who knows whether or not that person will be wise or foolish. Yet they have control over all the fruit of my toil, which I have poured my effort and skill under the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. For a person may labor with wisdom and knowledge and skill, and then they must leave all that they own to another that has not toiled for it. This too is meaningless, and a great misfortune. What do people get for all their toil and anxious striving, which they labor under the sun? All their day's work is grief and pain, and even at night their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. 24. A person can do nothing better than eat and drink and find satisfaction with their own toil. This too, I see, is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But the sinner he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, chasing after the wind. Chapter 3. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw, a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Verse 9. What do workers gain for all their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken away from it. God does not do so that people will fear him. God does it so that people will fear him. Verse 15. Whatever has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. 16. And I saw something else under the sun. In the place of judgment, wickedness was there. In the place of justice, wickedness was there. I said to myself, God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. 18. I also said to myself, as for humans, God tests them to see so that they may see and are like the animal, that they are like the animals. Surely the fate of the human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits both of them. As one dies, so another dies. so dies the other. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over animals. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and all return to dust. Who knows what the human spirit? Who knows if the human spirit rises upward, and if the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? So I saw there is nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because that is their lot. For who can bring them to see what will happen after them? Chapter 4. Again I looked, and I saw all the oppression that was taking place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, and how they have no comforter. Power was on the side of their oppressors, and they have no comforter. And I declared that the dead, who had already died, are happier than the living, who are still alive. But better than both is the one who has never been born, who has never seen the evil that is done under the sun. Verse 4. And I saw that all the toil and all achievement spring from one person's envy of another. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. Again I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone, and he had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For who am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. 2, verse 9. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Verse 13. Better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to heed a warning. The youth may have come from prison to the kingship, or he may have been born in poverty within his kingdom. I saw all who lived and walked under the sun followed the youth, the king's successor. There was no end to all the people who were before him. But those who came later were not pleased with the successor. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Chapter 5. Guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Go near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools who do not know that they do wrong. Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty with your heart to utter anything before God. God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Let your words be few. So let your words be few. Verse 3. A dream comes when there are many cares, and many words mark the speech of a fool. Verse 4. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools. Fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest to the temple. Do not protest to the temple messenger. My vow is a mistake. Why should God be angry at what you say and destroy the work of your hands? Much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore, fear God. 8. If you see the poor and oppressed in a district, and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things, for one official is eyed by a higher one, and over them both are higher still. The increase from the land is taken by all. The king himself profits from the fields. Verse 10. Whoever loves money will never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. Verse 11. As goods increase, so do those who consume them. And that will, and what benefit are they to the owners except to feast their eyes on them? The sleep of the laborer is sweet, but whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. Verse 13. I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owners, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when they have children there is nothing left for them to inherit. Verse 15. Everyone comes naked from their mother's womb. As everyone comes, so they depart. They take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. This too is a grievous evil. As everyone comes, so they depart. So what do they gain? And since they toil for the wind, all their days they eat in darkness, with great frustration, affliction, and anger. Verse 18. This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them. It is their lot, for this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions, and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot, and to be happy in their toil, this is a gift from God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life, because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. Amen. Yeah, Ecclesiastes is a blessing, man. It's something else. Alrighty, day 46 is done. I didn't mark that one off. Day 47 is done. Tomorrow, we're reading Ecclesiastes 6 to Isaiah chapter 1. Isaiah is fascinating. Alrighty. Well, that's it for today. Sorry, guys, I'm beat. I don't have any extra talk. God loves you. I love you too. God bless you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.